Welcome to Maneuvering Music, a vocal music podcast based at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. My name is Carrie Sullivan, and I am pleased to be your host for today's episode. Today we'll be talking about nothing in particular. The last several episodes have been very fascinating and informative. However, they've required a lot of organization, research, and heavy editing. I thought today we'd take a break and make this episode a little more mindless. So, due to popular demand, I'm bringing back fellow Sopranos Lauren Manus and Madison Wells to just talk about whatever comes to our minds for the next hour. Enjoy! Okay, so due to popular demand, I've decided today to bring back my fellow big brained Sopranos, Madison Wells and Lauren Manus. We were just talking about the goofy, very much rehearsed intros that you do before you perform a piece. So Lauren wants us all to do our performance intros. So
I think you learn a lot about a singer by their
You learn a lot about how they want to be perceived by the judges they're performing for. Because the way I present mine, I present very, hello, I'm just a cute little innocent girl, but I'm here to sing some important things.
Yeah. I just think you can tell a lot about each type of singer, and I think there's a lot of differentiation between, how different voice types introduce themselves as well. Baritones are very...
Baritone-y.
Yeah, it's just a really interesting thing. So the next time you're listening to a recording of someone where they introduce their piece, pay a little bit more attention because I think you'll learn something.
I think it's we don't anymore because of COVID, obviously. But when we had our in-person studio classes, my voice teacher would have us practice our introduction.
So
we would do it multiple times in a row, and we would be speaking and trying to comprehend this foreign title of a song and the composer, and she would just shout, I am a nice person at us over and over again while we were doing it. And the thought was just, awesome. I am a nice person. Good. You have to kind of say that in your head every time
we would go around and critique each other's intros, well, what did you okay, well, backtracking, the introduction to a piece is your first impression. It's what the audience gets from you the first time. So they expect to know, or to expect how you're going to be singing based on how you introduce yourself. And so my teacher is, very, very big on how we introduce ourselves. We have to be very, very clear about our names. My last name is Manus. And so I have to say that very clearly. Make sure everyone is... Hello, my name is Lauren Manus, and today I will be performing, and then she wants us to speak our title like it means something, because it does. It's not just...
Well, especially for titles that, aren't necessarily, aligned from the song.
Right.
Where it's, this is its own title with its own...
Right,
thing.
Every song, every, foreign song that I'm singing this semester, yeah.
Yeah, so. She wants us to speak it like it's not a collection of vowels and consonants. I'm singing a piece called Chanson d'amour, and you should know, from the way that I say that literally just means love song. Chanson, song d'amour, of love. That is the whole title of the piece. You get the intention, the tone, everything you're gonna need to know about the piece from those two little words. And so I have to say it
really? You know what? And that's helpful to me. I've never heard that before.
Oh, really?
I'm always wow, I hate hearing myself speak in French. That's my thought while I'm saying the title of a song.
I always feel so icky. I feel like it's whenever you're in a foreign language class and everyone around you is just hola, me llamo, and you're the only one who's trying to use the accent,
hola,
even though
me llamo.
Right, even though you are not at all have the ability to use an accent properly. I have my French song Les Papillons et la Fleur, and every time I say it I'm ew,
Les Papillons et la fleur.
Like, everyone knows you're not French, Maddie. Stop it.
I find it very hard to fluidly, like, go between an American accent and, like, the German language.
Not just American,
and then back.
like a Midwest American.
Like, hi, my name is Carrie Sullivan, and I will be performing Zuleika 1 and 2. That's an easy one, but, like, Chanson d'amour by Fauré. Like,
Fauré.
Okay. Right. Yeah, it's super interesting.
Don't even get me started on composer names. The amount of times that I've gone up and been like, oh, right, I have to know. Gabriel Fauré.
Yeah.
Just the amount of times that I've been like, oh, shoot, I have to know who wrote this.
Wolfgang Mozart.
I love watching,
my boy Wolf.
Wolfie, my dearest friend.
Right.
My goodest pal.
No, but I love watching, like, on the Met Live in HD streams, the introduction before the show, and then the between act times where whoever's hosting that production, whatever singer that is in a different show in the season is hosting, when they're talking about, like, the character names, or when they're talking about aria titles or whatever, they do pretty seamlessly transition from, like, English to whatever language the opera is in, but it's still something you can see that they struggle with because they want to speak very clear, oh gosh, what was, like, the Hollywood English called? Like, that they
like
had,
transatlantic?
Yeah, transatlantic.
It's almost like that? I don't know, but opera singers have their own way of speaking English that's almost transatlantic. Do you know what I mean?
Right, simply.
Yeah.
I remember being in a voice lesson with my older voice teacher before I came to college, and she was like, Madison, you speak too low. And I was like, what? And she's like, you need to speak up here. And I was like, I'm not going to do that because everyone will hate me.
It's Julia Childs.
Right.
It's finding something in between where it's like, you're using a healthy speaking voice, because I think a lot of people don't realize, like, speaking is more strenuous on your voice than singing is.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because we don't think about technique when we're talking. We,
Wouldn't that be something?
I
guess that's the opera
voice.
That
would be the opera transatlantic spoken English, like you
Which
do.
I feel like, going back to the introductions, that's kind of what we all put on whenever we're introducing ourselves. It's like, you're engaging your support before you even start to sing.
Yeah.
Right, I'm very much pinpointing my sound through, like, my forehead when I'm trying to speak. Like, so when I'm speaking right now, I'm very much in my throat and in my tongue.
Right.
But when I'm introducing myself, I'm very forward, and I'm trying to speak out into the room, because as soon as I get into my tongue, then my performance is going to be very, so, and nobody wants that.
Nobody.
Least of all
no
me.
one wants to hear the Ophelia songs from back here.
It's so funny, and I think that that's something that, like, I mean, sure, we talk about it with our private teachers, but it's not something we necessarily learn to do. You just kind of, like, pick it up or you don't.
Right.
And at whatever pace you pick it up. Like, that operatic speech. But I follow a bunch of opera singers on Instagram because, obviously,
Right.
I'm trying to...
Right.
And they always post a lot of, like, cool lifestyle content. Like, when they're not on stage, how do they live their lives?
So many opera singers post so much lifestyle content.
It's so wonderful, because truly, like, as exciting as it is to think about, like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life, that is such a small percentage of what you'll actually be doing, that on-stage exciting thing, that rehearsing time. Like, there's so much that you have to do between all that, that it's... but there's no rule book for what it has to be or what it can be. Like, there's no list of options. So I try to, like, get as much information as I can, glean as much residual experience, like someone else's experience, to try to influence my own. Like, how do you do the rest of it? Like, what do you do when you're not actively performing?
Right.
So interesting.
Simply, I could not tell you.
I don't know. Speaking of...
I think you just kind of sit in a room until it's time to rehearse.
You just wait. You'd probably spend your whole day doing yoga, because that wouldn't be exhausting.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Like,
of course not.
7 hours of just yoga and just staying, like, in it. You have a personal shopper, probably, because you can afford that sort of thing. Wink. And they just
I was
bring
like, what are you saying?
They just bring you green juice and, like, hot tea. And you just actually live in a practice room. You don't even, like, buy an apartment.
Oh, that sounds awful.
That does sound terrible. It's the John Mulaney bit where he's like, I look like I didn't used to do anything. I look like I was just sitting in a room eating saltine crackers. And then I appeared before you. Like, that's an opera singer.
Wow, I wish. Because, I mean, definitely, I feel like on a day where I'm performing, especially if it's like an evening performance rather than like a morning forum or whatever, like I feel like so conflicted. I feel like I don't want to do anything. Like, normally I would, get up and, like, eat breakfast and, like, go
I lose
and,
all
like,
appetite on a day where I'm performing at all.
Right. I don't want to eat. I don't want to, like, exercise. Like, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to talk to anybody. But I don't want to not talk because I feel like that affects my voice
Maddie,
as well.
you and I were actually talking about this.
Are you going to bring up weight brain?
Weight brain. Can you explain that?
So, my mom kind of helped me identify this. I have a thing that my mom calls weight brain, like WAIT, weight brain. Where it's like, say that, like what Carrie just described, say that I have a performance that I know is going to start around 6:30, we'll say. If it is noon, I cannot do anything because I have something going on at like 6:30. I can't start a task because there's no way I'll be able to get it done in time, which is so stupid and like I don't know why I do that, but I simply do.
I definitely have that too. Like I feel like it's noon and my performance is at 6:30 and like I kind of need to go to the grocery store, but like what if
it's that what if
I get in a car accident like at the Kroger 10 minutes away and it'll take me 4 hours to get home.
What if this assignment that is only 100 words of an essay isn't actually 100 words of an essay and it takes me from now until midnight tonight?
But like on top of like the amount of time that something's gonna take, it's also kind of like I can't focus on anything else because I'm like anxious and nervous for the performance and I'm thinking about everything I need to remember for the performance. So then I'm like, I just need to, as soon as I can get the performance over with, then I can, like, do things. But until then, I'm, like, locked in my own brain because I'm, like,
I also struggle with this. I think all singers do. But I've watched interviews with, like, famous singers who obviously have been doing this now for a while, and a performance ain't no thing for them. Like, they just go out and do it.
Thing was thing.
It very much ain't no thing. Very much ain't no thing.
Imagine approaching a performance and just being like, you know what? This ain't no thing.
Right. And so they're like, interviewers will ask, like, what does a day, like a performance day look like for you? And they're like literally every other day. I don't change. They're like, I don't change anything about my day for the performance specifically because otherwise it'll build this uncomfortable suspense and make me uncomfortably nervous and build that anticipation to an insurmountable degree. And so they're like, I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel that anxiety. So I just, I go to the gym like I normally would. I take my shower like I normally would. I warm up, do all my stuff, and call to the opera houses whenever. So I have my thing. Some people have like one ritualistic thing that they'll do. Like they drink a specific type of tea, or they like to do a specific warm-up for performances specifically, they've got one little thing, but they try not to make it consume their whole day. Having said that, I have no idea how to get there personally.
Right. Well, I was just thinking about, like, I don't think I've had, like, a normal day leading up to a performance since, like, I was in high school, and I was, like, the lead in the musical. Like, because it was like, well, of course I'm going about my normal day. I have no choice. Like,
well, yeah, but even then it was, like, going to school, for example, like,
you're all wearing your show t-shirts.
Friday through Sunday, so, like, Friday, you're going to school, and, like, opening night is later. And, like, I'm going through all my classes, and I'm, like, of course, doing my assignments and listening to the teacher, but I can't focus on anything because I'm, like, ooh, tonight's opening night, and I'm thinking about how, like, the very second the last bell rings to let us out of school, I have to, like, run to Kroger and buy makeup and hairspray, and I have to run home and, like, eat dinner really quick and then get back and, like, start. It's just, like, I feel like I give myself so many tasks.
I just stay at the high school and hi.
I'm
vibing. No, but simply, no, you're right.
I have to build my day backwards on days like that. Like, okay, the performance starts at 7:30. That means call is 6:30. That means I need to be warmed up, dressed, costumed, ready by 6:15. So I need to have my hair finished by 5:45, and I need to have my makeup done by 5. And I build backwards.
Why do hair and makeup take so much longer on days where you're actually performing?
That's what I want to know. Because on a regular, even if I'm doing,
and it's never as good.
No, never.
Exactly. Even if I'm doing my makeup like in the same way. If it's just because I feel like doing my makeup, it takes like maybe 45 minutes.
Right.
But if I have a performance, for some reason, like, not only does it take me an hour and 15 minutes, but it also looks awful.
It's like, no one come near
Way
me.
worse.
I've never done makeup before. Actually, this is my first attempt. This is my best guess.
This is maybe this is maybe what people do when they wear makeup. I couldn't tell you.
Who's to say? Me trying to do my makeup as someone who's never done makeup but has watched every makeup Instagram video.
It's the plot of The Music Man, just with makeup.
Literally,
suddenly there's no muscle memory, no recollection of what my face looks like with makeup.
Right,
and so
suddenly
I have no reference.
My fake eyelash doesn't want to go on.
Oh, girl.
It won't stay.
Me in the bathroom.
Literally, yeah. No, we just did a shoot for a redacted school project that's coming up. School project. And so it was an outdoor shoot, and of course it was like 45 degrees the entire time, and we're wearing these like 70s clothes
very
that are so
loose.
thin and loose.
It's very much like summer.
It was very horrible. There was like, this park restroom, and Maddie...
Well, I wore fake eyelashes for like the first time, and let me tell you, getting them on was quite an adventure.
Okay, and it's literally because we were trying to use this like ugly,
really bad
cheap makeup glue that was provided with the eyelashes.
Which
instead
is always,
of using...
it's always your first mistake to think, I trust them to provide me with something
I trust TJ Maxx.
I trust TJ Maxx to give me functional eyelash glue. And so, of course, the eyelash wouldn't stay on. And, like, we thought we finally get it on. We're, like, running out the door. Like, Lauren's mom is here to pick us up. Hey, Lisa, how you doing?
Hi,
like,
shout out to Lisa.
We love you, Lisa. And then, we get to the park, and I'm looking at Maddie, and I'm, like, looking at her, and she's like, the eyelash is coming off, isn't it?
We got to the bathroom, and it was literally, like... it looked like my eyes were like in two different directions just because the way the eyelash was.
So I had to I had to mount Maddie and like tenderly place my hand on her face.
Sit on the toilet, and Carrie was like on top of me, and she's like, don't blink, while she's like breathing.
And Maddie's blinking the hell away. She's like gonna fly away. She's blinking
butterfly,
so
fly away.
I'm trying
We're in there for hours. The entire cast is like, what is going on in there?
Like what are they doing? But the only issue with that, like, it would have been fine, except for I have been doing my own fake eyelashes for a few years now, so I've graduated to black eyelash glue.
Because she's so
very
brave.
dangerous.
Which is a dangerous moment.
It's incredibly risky.
If it touches your eyelid, your life is over. Your life is
ruined. And guess what happened to me?
It touched Maddie's eyelid.
When that happens, you pretty much have to commit
luckily
to
they were thick enough that no one could really tell. I just couldn't close my eyes at any point. So in all the footage that we have, I'm just gonna be unblinking.
Your one eye is closed.
Like, hello.
So it kind of open like
perpetually winking.
It'll add to the cult vibes that we definitely were accidentally giving off.
Said redacted school project.
Right.
Stay tuned.
Anyway, so that aside, what were we even talking about?
We were gonna introduce ourselves, and we were
talking about rituals and how sometimes putting your whole day on pause to get ready for a show is not ideal.
Right.
Even though guess who does it?
However, we all do it, and it definitely builds anticipation. And then if your performance doesn't go exactly to plan, which whenever does it,
never.
You're like, I wasted my whole day preparing for this 3 minutes of a song that I'm singing on a bigger recital, and I wasted it.
Well, and also, like, how silly is it that, like, I feel like, again, this is a very singer thing, where it's like, I could kill, like, 99.9% of my song, but then there's that 0.1% that I don't do right, and I'm like, well, I am a waste of a human being.
Right, I'm the worst.
I am disgusting, and I am
not
disgusted.
Even like I'm a bad singer, like I'm just a bad person.
Right.
Somebody should drag me out to the street and shoot me. Like that's
public execution. I deserve public execution.
I just put me in the stocks of medieval times.
And we laugh about it right now, but I've like genuinely had so many like mental breakdowns.
Yeah, the amount of times I've like exited the stage after Forum and like given Justin, I love you, Justin, if you're listening, you're probably not, but Justin's literally the most iconic person in the entire world. Anyways, Justin will give me a hug, and then I'll just go cry. Like, I'm like, I let everyone down.
And then you come out in the hallway, and I'm standing right there, and I'm like, what are you crying about?
You're like, that was great, and then I listen to it. Well, no, and then I'm like, no, it wasn't, and then I listen to it, and I'm like, oh, okay, that wasn't that bad.
Fine. Like,
this was fine.
Okay.
Why do you do that?
Because, well...
Is it
do you want to
the
talk
bones?
about the singer's ego? Because what an interesting balance.
Oh, yeah.
To have to have this sense, like, to have the confidence to actually get up on stage in that moment, and when you make a mistake, to not let it show on your face, everything about what that takes is insane. I would say, like, not that it's more intense than what you need to be, like, a stage actor or, like, a musical theater person, but I think that there's such a different level of vulnerability to classical singing, because literally it's like, relax your muscles, open your bones, and just
open them up.
Open your bones. Literally, like, arms out like a big old gingerbread man to society, this audience, and saying, like, I am open, vulnerable, and here's me being really deeply sad.
Right.
And also singing something that's very difficult. Please clap for this, or I'll die.
Or I will combust, and you'll all see it.
So you have to build yourself up to a place where you're able to just open your arms wide and say, like, I am in the most vulnerable position in front of all these people, and yet also I have to remind myself that I have power over them right now.
Right.
I'm gonna take their heart from them. I'm gonna say, here, I'm reaching out to Carrie right now. I'm taking her heart.
That's very beautiful.
I'm gonna hold it, and she's gonna let me, and I'm going to carry her through this song, and I'm gonna hold it even until the very last note on the piano plays, and then they're gonna release, and there will be no sound, and then there will be applause, and I will hand Carrie her heart back.
Thank you.
She can have it back.
I couldn't breathe.
But right, that was the energy in the studio. I literally just now, like, reached over at Carrie to grab her heart and hold it, and it went dead silent just now.
It was very beautiful.
So you have to have that confidence. But then also, I think because we're humans and we're balanced and we're not all narcissists, contrary to what people would love to believe.
Right, we can talk about that.
They hate us because they ain't us. Anyway.
Oh, wow. Love that confidence.
But, I mean, because Sopranos are fabulous. But anyway. Aside from the point, there's the balance, the thing that comes with having all that confidence is beating yourself up over every little thing, because you expect so much of yourself, and since singing is such a long game, like, you have this idea of what you want to be 20 years from now, and if today you aren't that 20 years in the future projection that you've created for yourself, you feel so let down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I have some time to grow, self? Like, can we
No!
wait 20 years to beat myself
Ridiculous!
up?
What are you talking about? You need to do
seriously.
it now!
I think it's also difficult because if you're high achieving enough as a singer to do it
or just as a person, period.
Or as a person, but, like, to pursue music professionally. I mean, this is something that non-professionals experience as well, where they want to be somewhere that they aren't already, and that just takes time. But if you are someone who's decided this is going to be your career, you expect so much from it. And so I just think, we're just stuck.
Well, if you're going to continue on that, because I was going to divert the topic
I was just going to say, like, kind of, I have, like, thoughts and I don't know how to say them. I was just going to talk about more, like, kind of, like, singer ego and, like, just kind of the idea that we are seen as these very, like, oh, well, I am a soprano, or I am a tenor, I am all of these things, and it's like, I feel like there's a very negative association that comes with a lot of that, and it's like, well, like you just said, you have to have a certain level of confidence, and I think a lot of people can confuse that confidence for sort of arrogance.
Right.
And that's not fun. We're people too.
Yeah, because they don't see the breakdowns because we deliberately hide them.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not, like, classy or cute.
Yeah, I think this is also something that, like, I don't see at our age, like, our peers in, like, an instrumental department, I don't necessarily see them struggling with something like this. I think part of it is also because, like, when they are performing, they're presenting their skill at an instrument that is not them. And when we talked about this a little bit the last time we were on, but I can't stress it enough. Like, when you are singing, the reason you feel like if you cracked on your high Q sharp, as Liza Kelly likes to say, the reason you feel like you should be dragged out into the street and publicly executed is because we have a hard time separating our musical selves from our actual person, and we have to have a distinction there, which is, I think, part of why I'm, like, so eager to follow opera singers on Instagram, because I want to see beyond the performance persona, how do they distinguish themselves, like Renee Fleming, the musician and the instrument, versus Renee Fleming, the girl who grew up in New York and, couldn't used to sing high notes.
Right.
Well,
it's kind of like what in our what is that class even classified as? The class that is that is attached to Redacted project.
We call it opera workshop.
Okay, opera workshop. Redacted opera workshop.
Stay tuned. If you aren't following MU Opera Theater to get the updates on the Redacted show we're talking about right now,
Maddie
literally
plugged
plugged me.
Maddie
Thank
runs
you.
the account
Hi.
for MU Opera Theater, so you should definitely go hit them a follow.
It's a fun time. We're gonna be posting.
She does
updates.
her best to make the feed themed, and then it gets messed up constantly for some reason. But
I have a feed theme planned out, and I think I finally cracked how to keep it intact. But man, I was really
go follow them.
It's finally correct.
It's correct now, so you'll
go check it out.
Maddie no longer deserves to be publicly executed
for that reason.
for that particular reason.
Right.
We're not gonna talk about this upcoming Thursday foreign performance. I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah, we'll get back to
that. In our Redacted opera performance workshop class, Professor Smolder, the lovely professor,
director, period.
He's a king. Anyways,
shout out to Professor Smolder.
Shout out, everyone's just getting shouted out. You're so welcome, everyone.
You're welcome.
No, but we're kind of talking about how you have to sort of have like a brand for yourself. Like aside from, okay, cool, you can sing. Like, cool. Like, what else about you is not necessarily special, but just like is what makes you who you are. And I don't know about y'all, but for me, I'm like, what do you mean I sing? Like, I'm a positive person, and that's
I eat
all
lunch every day, like
sometimes when I remember to.
Right, so
oh my gosh.
I was actually fortunate enough. Miami University hosts a Schmidt Vocal Institute for high schoolers, and I've actually been fortunate enough to attend that twice. I attended in 2017 and in 2019. And some of these ideas, I mean, not as in-depth as we're talking about them now, but these ideas of having a brand and these ideas of being aware of what makes you as a singer more marketable for a certain role, or what makes you more identifiable.
Yeah.
We've sort of been talking about that for a while, and I agree. When I first, tried to perceive those concepts, I could not. I'm like, what are my skills? I do not know. I have no skills.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of like when you're writing a resume and you have to come up with words, single words that just succinctly describe you. And I'm always like, I don't want to I don't want to be positive about myself, but I don't want people to think that I'm so up my butt that I'm like, wow, I am all of these things.
And I think that's a really unfortunate sort of consequence of this sort of humility culture that we've got going on and honestly in society right now, because it's you say one positive thing about yourself and people are like, wow. Simply. Wow. Right. Someone loves herself so much. And it's okay, well, let me have positive opinions about myself, because the alternative to that is being wow, I'm the absolute worst.
Right.
And then, that's exhausting to be around too,
Right. Or then you become the person who wants to say something positive about themselves, but poses it in the form of a takedown around other people.
Mm-hmm.
I could say to Carrie right now, oh my god, Carrie, I am so jealous of how beautiful and silvery and light your voice is, and literally I could never do that, and it makes me want to jump off a bridge. And that puts Carrie in a position to have to say, oh my god, no, Lauren, you do your own thing.
Right. PSA,
that's exhausting
don't
to be around.
compliment other people in a way that puts yourself down, because it's just so icky.
There's no response to that.
Because then you have to be no, which is you're not accepting a compliment that you probably deserve.
Right, you have the emotional burden of not only having to accept the compliment, which can sometimes be hard when you have your own self-image issues, but then also you have to fix this other person's self-image issues, and it's okay, so can I breathe? If you're gonna insult yourself, can you do that without complimenting?
I have her heart.
Lauren has her heart.
Oh, I can't breathe.
Legally, she's not allowed to breathe.
Yeah, she's still holding it over there. I had to have really big tank lungs, so I've been talking this whole time on one breath. So.
Wow. My goodness. That's remarkable. And that would be a special skill.
That would be.
I'm
Massive
actually
tank.
Massive
I'm actually a
tank
castrato.
lungs.
I actually have like a really like genetically different body.
Don't say
That's
that.
exciting.
So-
Do not say that to me.
You know what? And I was just saying this the other night. We actually had our first sleepover as a friend group the other
Oh
night.
my
But
gosh,
I
it
was
was
just
so
saying,
fun.
like, if you've never read up on like the history of like the classical and the operatic voice, you should, because something that I learned in my like opera, like discovering opera class last semester was, you know, women weren't allowed to sing for a very long time.
Or perform at all.
Or perform
in
at all,
And it's
right.
still that way. In
Women
some
were not allowed to be
cultures.
perceived, and women
Yeah.
still in parts of the world are
Yeah.
not allowed to be perceived. And
Perceive women.
perceive women 2020.
Period.
Hashtag Perceive Women 2020. Get it trending on Twitter.
You know,
Thank you.
Hashtag
everyone.
Maneuvering
And-
Music.
right,
Hashtag
exactly.
Perceive Women.
Hashtag MU Opera
perceive
Theater.
women, and that's our liberal viewpoint of the day. But then, so you know, they would have, you know, boys singing these higher parts because God forbid a woman sing. God forbid a woman open her mouth.
God forbid.
But then, you
God
know,
forbid a woman.
right? And they would, you know, so like people would have children, and before the child was even like perceiving like the world around them, the parents would have to be like, okay, we're gonna put all of our bets on our child being a good musician, and we're gonna get him castrated so that his voice stays like this forever.
Okay, because
It was-
in my diverse worlds, I'm taking a diverse worlds of music course right now. Shout out Dr. Pergram.
Shout out.
Love you, Dr. Pergram. Anyways, we talked about oh my gosh, what? I think it was either Chinese opera or Japanese opera theater, and it was I think it was Jinju. I think it was the Chinese opera style, and it was these boys would be, you know, castrato voices, but they would be like presented with that at a certain point, like, hey, this is your career path that you're going down. Is this what you really want to do? And they'd be like, yeah, duh. And then they become castrato. So that's like crazy
Yeah, I
that
also
a
think
choice isn't even involved in it.
I also think it's really interesting. I mean, Carrie, you're absolutely right. Like, the parents would just say, like,
well, let's hope he can sing.
Because then it's also like, once you're castrated, you can no longer have a family. So it's like, we're
Right.
going to choose for our boy. He's 10. We're going to choose for him right now. He's going to be a musician. And if he can't become a musician, his life is over.
Right.
Because the only two things that you could do in 1700 were be a musician and have children. And you can't, those
Those are the
things are
two
not,
career
like,
paths.
those are mutually exclusive. You cannot do both.
Right.
That's
So
so
you
unfortunate.
choose at this child's young age, this kid is going to be a singer. And if they're not a singer,
Right.
then what? They're
or
like,
you can just,
right.
you know, hope he grows up to be like a baritone or something.
well, if you cut his balls off,
I know.
I'm saying you can't just like hold off.
Thank you, Carrie, for that little science
I'm just saying
tidbit
you
there.
could hold off.
But,
Like,
you
know.
Carrie got pretty much all of that history.
Yeah,
but
right.
the other important thing to think about is the only place you could sing is the church. And the church,
Right.
who's so big on creating more congregation members for the future, is saying, like, oh, we're gonna look for this kind of ethereal voice, but they're not gonna be able to procreate, you know, like the Bible says
That's a
to.
contradiction.
That's
That's
suspicious.
That's weird.
Yeah, so
Not that being like.
shout out Cardi B.
Oh
Anyway,
my God. Yeah, if you're listening,
If you're listening, hey queen.
I mean, yes, very much that. It was a very much a thing. Where I was going with this theory about castratos is that, you know, the castrato was like this. They were all the rage. Like everybody loved the castrato voice, and you know, like even composers as late as like Mozart were writing songs and arias and operas for these castrato boys and these castrato men. And so when you cut off somebody's testicles when they're very young and they're not done growing, they grow in a different way. So these castratos have these, they're like giant, like they're
Right.
so tall. They've got these giant chest cavities and these huge lungs.
I don't
And
think I knew
like,
that.
so
Yeah,
they can
that's
fill
crazy.
up and they can do these long, like, this is like Baroque into classical.
Yeah.
So they can do these long, beautiful phrases
Is
with
that
all
why
this
we
expression.
hate Baroque music? Because it's
That's
not
why,
written.
you know, it's the worst. But
Speak for yourselves. I have a castrato ribcage.
Okay,
yeah,
well,
Lauren
sorry
is
we
basically
can't all
a
have.
castrato.
Sorry, we're not all castratos
Yeah, I'm
here, Lauren.
huge. I'm like 6 feet tall. I have have a giant rib cage.
Your voice is
I
beautiful.
don't have, like, the awkwardly long arms that they were.
Yes, they did also have really long.
Wait, are they like
arms.
the one guy who was like the leper in it?
Oh yeah, we were just talking about that guy. He's has naturally really long limbs.
He just naturally looks kind of like a scary long person, so he's cast to play all these
terrifying.
scary long people.
Basically that, they had like really like disproportionate body like features, and they just like look weird, but they're able to do these like superhuman things with their voice, and that's what all of this music in the Baroque and the classical periods was written for these higher voices. So now, skip forward 300 years.
We don't really do that to boys anymore.
We don't really do that.
Good.
Not in this country.
That's inconspicuous.
That
that makes sense.
So then now, all of this repertoire that was written in the Baroque and in the classical is now having to be sung by women because we don't castrate men anymore. Right. So women, as singers, as classical singers, women are expected to sing these things that were written for superhumans.
Right.
In
like,
the 16 and
mutants.
Yeah.
These alien people.
Members of the X-Men.
And I think that is like, whenever I feel frustrated at myself, I kind of remember like, I'm training to sound like somebody who is like genetically mutated.
Yeah.
Basically. Like
literally
from 300 years
modified
ago.
to sing in
Because
this
that
way.
is literally where like the female classical sound comes from, is this castrato tradition.
Right.
I think it's kind of messed up, honestly. I'm kind of mad that like men can just like sing however they want. Like they sing how they're naturally meant to sing, and women have to like completely like strive for this crazy superhuman like technique. But we do it, and that's on Period. And that's called...
And that's on Bones.
That's on Perceiving Women 2020.
Yeah.
Perceiving Women 2020, this segment of the podcast
kind of,
is concluded.
Just food for thought. I doubt there's an answer because we don't have a boy singer to consult, and it obviously varies.
I have a stuffed animal in the bed who can be like a representation.
Sure.
We can grab Buchanan the sloth. I'll answer for him.
Right. Well, just food for thought. For like we were talking about earlier, backtracking, about how we feel we should be executed after we do not do well in a performance.
Back to that.
Back to public execution.
Yeah, circling back, flip it and reverse it. Do you think that men have these same thoughts after their performances to this degree?
I mean, I would assume so, because I feel like it's just a performer.
Yeah.
Right, because
I'm like,
that's kind of what I said in my
also,
head when
though,
she
I
asked that
kind of
question.
feel like I overreact to things in general. Like, I feel like all three people sitting in this circle currently have been called the term drama queen at some point in their lives.
Dramatic.
Oh my gosh, diva, calm down. Miss Lauren with her diva earrings.
They say diva.
They say diva. No, literally overrated, drama queen, diva.
Right.
You know, we've heard it all, sweetie. No, but I mean, I don't know how much that has to do with how we perceive the situations that we're in. Where it's like, for me, I almost feel like. It's almost like, oh my gosh, I just let everyone down. Like, they believe these things, and now I just prove them all right. Like, and, you know, I can't speak to what Lauren's experience post-performance is, or what Carrie's experience post-performance is, or what any male singer's post-performance behavior is, because, you know, we've all taken the steps that we've taken to get to this point, and the past experiences that we've all been through 100% influence our reactions to what we've just done. So, to that effect, I generally just think that, wow, Maddie, you freak out way too much. So, I don't know if any male performer does that as well, but also I just don't know if I am normal. Anyways,
I'm a little bit crazy.
Do not say that.
A little bit crazy.
I'm just a little quirky.
I'm just a little bit quirky.
I'm not like other sopranos.
I generally am of the belief that there is gender disparity present in every part of life. So I feel that, you know, obviously the experience between the male singer and the female singer is vastly different. I guarantee you that, you know, don't say it out loud.
I'm not gonna say it. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it.
She said penis points. Everybody.
Yeah,
I didn't know if the word penis was allowed on this podcast.
We've already talked about castrati.
It's my podcast, and I want to say penis. So
okay. I didn't know it was allowed.
Anyway, but Yeah. I mean, I feel like, and this is just an assumption because I've never actually spoken to a real male about this before, but
a real boy.
A real boy. But I assume that the experience of like being told that, you know, oh, you just think you're better than everybody else and you're a drama queen and you're a diva is very much exclusive to female singers. Yeah. Whether that's, you know, in high school when you're just coming into the vocal performance world and like nobody really understands what you're doing.
Oh boy, when you start to gain confidence in yourself, does the world hate it?
The one iota of confidence in your body, everybody will be so quick to take that right out of you. Or even when that's in the professional world, when, you know, sopranos don't even, like, make a demand, but, like, make a request, like, a firm request for, like, themselves and their own comfort or their own, you know, something that they need to perform. And they're like, wow, diva. Like, I slap the diva label on there. Like, I
survived the battle. Thank you very much.
Right.
Like,
but I think,
Miss Kathleen.
I think that's... Please stop.
Shout out to Kathy Battle.
Shout out to Kathleen Battle if you're listening.
Kathy Battle. But then also, I think there's also experiences that are very exclusive to male singers. Like I think a lot of I'm sure that this happened like in my voice like kind of studio that I was in high school, where, you know, these boys are like being told that they have this musical talent like at school and by like the coach, but then they go home and, you know, the male figures and even sometimes the female figures in their life are like, wow, you're gay. Like, are you gay? Because you want to sing. Like, it's very much like this toxic masculinity that kind of tells men that, like... Yeah. And I feel like it gets better once they get kind of professional, because professional, you know, anybody is, like, respected a lot. But, you know, I feel like there's probably this experience of, like, you're a man and you're doing something for women. How dare?
Well, and I think just the amount of emotion as well that
showing
goes into
emotion
singing.
In a performance.
Yeah. And
illegal amounts
illegal.
Of male emotion, and also the emotion that goes into being, like, training as a singer. Like we said, you know, there are days when I, like, have a performance and then I go home and cry. Like, men
days, try every performance. No, I'm kidding.
I'm not. That is accurate to my personal experience.
I cry when I do a good job, too. Like,
I stay crying, and you know what? I'm not mad about it.
We stay crying. 2020.
You know what? And maybe, you know, this is...
But talking about the male vocal experience, just PSA, if you are a singer and you are a male person and you may not be like, if you're not comfortable with being told, like, oh, that's so gay, which, I mean, it's just an awkward thing.
Like, nobody wants to be told that.
No one wants to be told that, because the tone is derogatory when people say it that way. It obviously is not an actually derogatory thing.
Right.
Because actually, factually, if you are gay, it's not like an insult.
Exactly.
But that aside, like, if you feel stressed by that derogative connotation toward you being a male performer, like, let's make very clear, there's nothing more attractive in the world than a strong male singer. The three of us have been listening a little bit to some Tosca.
A little bit.
A lot of bit to some Tosca. There's a particular recording. If you're interested, feel free to look it up. It's with Mirella Freni as Tosca, Pavarotti as Cavaradossi, and my personal favorite, Cheryl Mills as Scarpia. This may be an unpopular opinion, but the three of us find Scarpia's aria Tre sbirri una carrozza to be incredibly attractive. And anyway, so if you're a boy singer and you don't like people telling you that you're gay for being a singer, just know that
and
male, female, or other, like, no one is going to find you more attractive than when you are a singer.
Simply.
So
seriously.
If you're worried about how you'll be perceived by whoever you're interested in, just know you can only go up from being a singer. Like, there's only an upward path.
Honestly,
I wonder if that's like a thing in male singers. Are they like, wow, female singers are incredible? Because I'll listen to female singers and I'll be like, yeah, that's really good. But then I'll listen to male singers and I'm like having like a spiritual experience.
I have to
I'm like,
wow. I have to lie down, like, arms crossed over my chest, like in yoga.
And it's like, it's not even like, oh, I prefer baritones and basses and like tenors. Like, I hear a good tenor and I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Literally. It's crazy. Oh, shout out to all male singers everywhere.
Every single male singer.
Every single
shout
one
out
of
to
you.
You are perfect and I love you.
Literally.
And that's that on that.
That's that on that.
So
yeah.
good.
Hello, everyone. My name is Madison Wells, and today, along with my collaborator, Justin Hahn, I will be performing a song that I'm going to come up with right now in front of all of you for me to perform.
Ooh.
I'm a soprano, and I wanted all of you to know that. Justin plays like a C major chord, and then we leave.
And you're like,
Bam.
riff.
And then I'm like, you know, jazz.
That's
We're good. Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Hello, my name is Lauren Manus, and today I will be performing Tres Birri una carrozza from Tosca by
Puccini.
Carrie said
You notice how I just like absolutely blanked, even though I very much know who composed Tosca. It is so nerve-wracking to speak when
and
you are
there's not
prepared
even
to
an
be
audience
singing.
here.
There's not even an audience. It's this is a studio
I'll
audience
be like
of the two of you.
in the green. I'll be in the green room before a foreign performance, and
Yeah.
everyone will be like running their words, and I'll just be looking in the mirror, going, "Hello, my name's Madison Wells, and
Right.
today, along with like,
Right, I'm not gonna
like a
forget the
psychopath.
German, but I will mix up every
How I
Schubert song
speak.
that I've ever sung starts with an S.
I'll forget my name." Simply.
I mean, I went to go get my flu shot the other day, and the woman asked me my birthday, and I was like, "What?"
I don't know if I can tell you that.
Excellent question. Can I check my phone? I'm sure it's on my calendar.
Can I just call my mom real quick?
Wait, my
Phone
mom's
a
right
friend.
outside. Can I go get her?
Oh my
'Cause
God.
she knows.
Now I think I know, but I would just love to confirm with the woman who was actually there and with an adult brain. at the
Right.
time.
So
So
it's like
she
when you
says-
know what 2 + 2 is, but you're like, I'm just gonna make sure.
Let me pull out my calculator.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I kind of have a conspiracy that like I was like not actually born when I was born.
Okay, I thought you were
Like,
gonna
I
end the
was
sentence
born-
there. I was like,
I was
Carrie,
born
you're
later.
alive. You're here.
Because for most of my life, like I was very small. It took me a
Mm.
really long time. 5'3" now. It took me a very long time to get to
Yeah.
5'3", and like I just felt like very like all my friends loomed over me in grade school, and I was like very much like. So I know my mom says I was born in 2001, but I actually don't believe that. I think I was born in like 2003,
Wow.
and I wouldn't know, of course.
I never consciously had that thought, but in reverse, flip it and reverse it. Because, like, the last time I was 5'3", I'm genuinely
Lauren's
trying to
like,
recall.
it's a twinkle in my eye. It's so far away.
I seriously, like, it may have been before 3rd grade.
Oh my god.
Oh wow.
Like,
She be.
I've been tall.
She be.
She long.
been that way, still that way.
So
We'll
Lauren
forever
was actually
be
born
that
in
way.
1994.
Right, I'm like, am I actually like a camp counselor plant for everyone that is my own age? Like, because I also like I was an only child, and so my best friends were my parents, and so there's a mental maturity that comes with only speaking to people 30 years your superior
Simply.
Right.
for most of your childhood. So you end up feeling very emotionally mature. And so also being physically, like, I was always a head taller than everyone my age, even, like, starting in preschool. Like, I was just a long kid. I was a long baby, very tall child. People were, like, even when I remember my mom telling me stories of me being, like, approaching the terrible twos, you know, as a kid throwing a fit.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone around her, like, if we were in public, everyone around her would be looking at me and, like, staring, you know, judgmentally, like you do to children who are throwing a fit, of course, instead
Right.
of helping or whatever.
You're just
Right.
like, don't you know how to regulate your emotions, child?
Right. These people would stare at my mom and be like, why can this, like, 3 to 4-year-old not get it together? And my mom's like, okay, my kid is, like, not 2 yet.
My
So,
kid was, like,
please
actually
leave her alone.
just came out. Thank you
Right,
very much.
she's
She was
fresh
born
out the
yesterday.
Right. But everyone
I know
always
she's
thought,
big, however.
Right. They're like, geez, like, by 3 or 4, you should have, like, emotional control.
I don't have any, like, conspiracy theories about my birth, I guess.
Maddie
Yeah.
was simply
Maddie
born
is
when
also-
she was
I was
born.
born when I
and-
was-
She's also the
August 20th, baby.
height-wise, she is, like, directly between me and Carrie, so there's also that.
Lauren gets a venti when we go to Starbucks, I get a grande, and Carrie gets a tall, and they're perfect. They're exactly our height, they all are correct.
Yeah, it's a good system that we have going on.
I was just, like, a very calm child. Like, I never, my mom will always talk about how, like, I never threw fits anywhere. Like, even when I was, like, a baby, apparently. Like, I was just very polite. Even as a child, I felt social pressure to just be correct at all times.
Oh, yeah, me too. I mean, I definitely, like, was out in public, like, for example, when my aunt got married in 2012, and I was 11, and my siblings were, 8 and 3 or whatever.
Right.
And, we were out at the restaurant after the rehearsal dinner or whatever, and me and my siblings, like, even my younger sister, we were all sitting at the table minding our own business because, I don't want anybody to perceive me ever.
Right.
And then there were other people's kids, running laps around the table and screaming and knocking crap over, and I'm just, like, looking at them like, dude, what?
What are you doing?
Like, literally, what are you doing? And honestly, like, I think it's because I have an anxiety disorder. I think it's anxiety disorder. I was a really well-behaved kid, and now, like, if anybody yells at me, I will cry.
No, me too.
If I even, like, the one time when I was, like, I came too close to, like, the Starbucks employee, and they, like, kind of firmly told me to go back, I almost died. Like, I wanted to be publicly executed after that
I'm trying
moment.
to think if there's, like, been a moment recently. I mean, absolutely. The minute an adult seems like they don't like the behavior that I am showcasing,
it's over.
I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Here's the difference for me. So I'm also a very stubborn person. Like, as much as I am a people pleaser and I want all the adults around me to not only tolerate me but, like, aggressively adore me, that is what I demand.
Felt,
perceived. So I try to, like, everything I do, I would like to be aggressively liked and not just, like, passing through.
If people tolerate me, I perceive that as they hate me.
Right.
They want me to go away forever.
Right. But the difference is, if an adult yells at me, being stubborn the way that I am, I'm like, excuse you? Like, how very dare you speak to me in that manner? Like, I will not tolerate that as a person and as someone, like, I'm mentally mature, and so I feel like I'm your peer. If you yell at me, I will fight you on it. But these words are the end of my life. I'm so disappointed in you.
Ouch.
Projectile
for
Snoopy
personal
tears.
reasons. I will be
Snoopy
combusting.
If someone just generally seems disappointed with what I'm doing, either vocally or just in life, like, that is the end of my existence. I cease to exist at that point in time. But, like, if someone's trying to yell at me, like, you're this or that, or, like, you're not even that good anyway, whatever, because we've all had that soprano intimidation in a hallway, or that passive aggressivity. Like, I do not respond. We've all felt it.
We're all familiar with the up and down look.
Right, or like, oh, what are you singing? Oh, you're going with that? That's really an interesting place.
Oh, Lauren,
wow.
you're singing Fata Morgana?
Wow,
That's
Lauren,
really
you're singing
brave.
Fata Morgana.
Okay,
I bet it'll be incredibly impressive and we'll all cry.
That's hilarious. But, like, oh, that's what you're going with? That's a really interesting... You know what? I just think that's a really brave choice, and I'm, I couldn't do it. That's really brave for you. It's like... Thanks. I am actually really brave.
The backstage intimidation tactics.
Right. That sort of thing It has never bothered me, though. Like,
for me, it's almost entertaining.
Right, exactly.
Because it's like, wow, you're behaving like a knockoff decom, like, central antagonist.
Right. That is not main character behavior. So
not even Sharpay behavior.
Not even
Sharpay's mom behavior.
Sharpay did not. Sharpay didn't need to intimidate her competition. She just flew.
But I think it's also so upsetting because it's like, we see, like, in society, we need to see more of women uplifting other women. Right. But I think that has such a need to carry over into the performance world because simply, as we discussed in the last episode that we were all on here for, there are so many roles and so many different Fox and so many, like, different performance opportunities that each and every one of us is going to experience in our lifetime. There is simply no need to tear anyone down vocally, personality-wise, in any capacity. It just doesn't make sense.
That's why me, Maddie, and Lauren are such good friends. We don't have to tear each other down because we all have we all
been there, done that. We've been torn down.
Right, we
are not here for it anymore.
And we don't need that because I'm Despina, Maddie is Dorabella, and Lauren is
Fiordalici.
Like, there's no need to fight because there's roles for all three of us.
Hashtag Cozy Fun Tuesday.
Cozy Fun Tuesday.
Spring
Shout
of
out
2023.
Shout out Cozy Fun Tuesday.
Right.
Shout out
Mozart.
W.A. Mozart.
No, but true. I mean, like, Carrie, Carabino, Madison, Susanna, Lauren, Countess.
Right, like, beyond the fact that the
obviously
three of us,
not now. I'm not ready
right
for that.
Sure.
Don't
No,
make me do
don't make
Susanna
But,
right now.
aside from the fact that you could probably, in any opera where there's 3 sopranos, you could cast the 3 of us separately, I'm hard-pressed to think of one role that we could all go out for.
I simply cannot.
I
Like,
mean, maybe in musical theater, but that's completely different.
Yeah, that's very different.
see, but not even there, because I would, like, I mean, I did musical theater in high school, and being so tall and maternal, like, I just get the old woman.
That's true. I'm trying to
And
think.
it's just, I always get a spoken role.
Don Pasquale, who's the...
I've never seen Don Pasquale.
I think it's hold on.
Z?
I'm looking her up. Her name starts with a Z.
In
She is
Pasquale,
in
or?
Pasquale. She's the only woman in Don Pasquale, and that's like the only thing I'm coming up with because you and I could both play her.
Oh, well, guess it's time for us to fight to the death.
Sorry, I take it all back. I'm actually hate Carrie
We're
now.
actually rivals at the moment.
We actually
yeah.
hate each other, actually.
I'm kidding.
So.
I
If
could never
anything,
do
anything
that.
Maddie is somewhere between Carrie and I.
I
Height-wise,
would agree
vocally,
with that. I would agree with
all
that.
of the above. There's no role that Carrie and I could go out for.
No.
Where we would be in
We
competition.
just have completely different voices and body, like, types and, like,
Ernesto,
personality. Well, not really personality.
Ernesto and
but-
Don Pasquale. I just remembered how precious he is. Sorry, continue.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out this woman's name because I'm gonna lose my
We're
mind.
consulting the interwebs.
I'm
No, but
I'm
I
consulting
just think
Metropolitan Opera.
I think it's hilarious that these people get so wrapped up in, like, competition
Mhm.
that, you know...
Okay, I'm very silly. Her name is not at all starting with a Z. It is Narina.
Oh.
Okay,
Maybe she
I
was
did know that. I
played
think you're
by
thinking,
a-
like, Zerbinetta or,
Yes,
like,
I was.
Zerlina.
I was thinking of Zerbinetta.
There are 2 Z names, and this is just opera trivia time.
I was thinking of Zerbinetta now that you're talking about it. Yeah.
Zerbinetta, I think. Well, shoot. Zerbinetta is from a different. That's Ariadne of Naxos, I think.
Yeah.
And then Zerlina is from
Don Giovanni.
Don Giovanni.
Yes.
So it is, yeah. Like,
There's-
Bati, Obe,
I
The
will
way you
be
just,
singing that
the way you
next
just
semester.
bati.
I will be singing that next semester, guys, so...
Really?
yeah, actually.
Oh my god.
First
announcement
of the spring
Really?
My
season
gosh.
of Carrie's spring
So
season.
exciting.
I don't know
So
anything.
anyway,
I don't know what I'm. Oh no, I know too. Because I'm gonna do the. Anyways.
And also, PSA, if you are someone who is uncomfortable when we mention, like, talking about the soprano intimidation or just the female intimidation in the hallway of a competition or an audition for whatever, if you feel offended by that or attacked by that, almost certainly you are the problem.
Go therapy.
Go to therapy.
Simply, if you think you are the problem, you're probably the problem.
Right.
If you don't think you're a problem, you probably are.
Right. If you don't think you're the
Okay.
problem, just go ahead
We don't
and...
have to attack our listeners here. We're just saying.
Right. It's not worth the time that you would spend thinking about how you might negatively impact someone else's performance by saying something awful to them or, like, doing something to intimidate them. Yeah, forget about voter intimidation. Let's talk about soprano intimidation.
Let's talk about it.
It's like, you know, even if that did work, like, is that the way you really want to win anyway?
Also,
if you
has it ever worked?
Right. A, has it ever worked? B, is that how you want to win anyway?
I feel
And
like...
C, if you think that you wouldn't be able to win unless you intimidated someone, then go practice next time instead.
Simply. Because honestly, I feel like it's kind of like what we were talking about last time, where it's like, you're the person to be if, like, you know, in that scenario that you described. It's like, if people are trying to intimidate me, then I'm like, cool. People are trying to intimidate me. I must be pretty nice. Like,
right. Like, I've officially made it if people are saying, like, oh, well, she's not all she's chalked up to be. She's not everything. Like, ugh, you'll be tired of hearing her soon enough. Like, if you are perceiving me enough to say something like that, then clearly I've made it. Like, if I've made it far enough to have haters, H8... ERs is how I spell that in my mind.
Haters.
Yeah. Right, like...
It's like all that cringy Tumblr stuff, like, thank you to my haters, but, like, genuinely.
No, because it's like, honestly, it's like, if I'm doing well enough in my life that I've acquired some hate for doing well, then...
And we're like, well, I'm... How old am I?
Then we've done it, basically.
I'm 19.
Yeah, when's your birthday?
I literally was just like, what am I? How old am I?
So anyway, don't be that person. Be the because then you can't be the main character in your own movie if someone else is the center of your focus instead of you.
Oh, yep.
So, like, always just focus on making you better instead of making other people worse to make you look better in comparison, because that's not always a sure thing. The only thing you can really count on is yourself.
Period.
And that's on period.
And that's
Amen.
on period. Yep, that's it.
Yep, that's what I have to say. Lauren, you look like you're harboring a thought. Lauren has no thoughts.
No thoughts. Head empty.
My brain is actually empty, and that's mostly to leave room for resonance.
Oh, okay.
So I actually went ahead and emptied my skull so that it's kind of like.
So it's
got
not no
microphones.
thoughts, head empty. It's so many thoughts, head empty.
So many thoughts that I had to empty my brain
Head empty.
to allow for all of them.
With an M.
Brim. Yeah.
Brain empty, no thoughts.
Do we have
Mom
a summary?
spaghetti.
Do we have a summary of this? Because I literally
we noodled so much.
Summary, women are awesome.
Period.
Perceive women 2020.
But also
women-
perceive men in this field because
But also
they're
perceive
precious
men.
and beautiful too.
Stop
perceive
being-
them as equal and also separate and contributing their own things.
Exactly.
Let singers have a little bit of ego, because truly you don't realize what goes behind. You don't realize what goes on behind closed doors. And remember that we're really not asking for that much. We're just asking for you to close the window so we don't get like a sinus infection.
Yeah.
Rip me last year, where my roommate left the door open one
no.
rainy night, and I had a sinus infection that put me out for like a month.
Rest in pieces.
Rest in Reese's Pieces. Anyway.
Not that. Not that.
Yeah,
so-
we all work hard and don't try to take each other down to build yourself up. Just go to a practice room instead. It's so
Period.
much easier than trying to be spiteful, because how exhausting for you.
And how exhausting for us.
How exhausting for everyone involved.
How just exhausting. Yeah, women support women, perceive women, just women.
Women in general, and also Scarpia.
And also
And also
Scarpia.
Scarpia.
Period,
Sure.
Scarpia.
Anyway.
That's the podcast. That's it. Women and Scarpia.
Yeah, well.
Wow.
Thanks for joining.
It's been great. Well, we'll definitely have Maddie and Lauren back again, because these are so much fun to make. And honestly, I was so exhausted after making the last episode. It was so much organizing. So
But
I
it was
just
so
needed
beautiful.
a little bit of noodle brain soprano energy for this week.
Hashtag opera noodles.
Hashtag opera noodles.
And if you haven't already listened to the other podcasts that Carrie has poured her heart and soul into creating,
Literally, Carrie is
please.
working her cute little booty off, and she deserves all the love and support. So.
and also they're so fascinating.
They
so
are.
if you want to know more about something rather than just hanging out with the three of us and chit-chatting for a while, if you want to get some real information, definitely go back
I'd
and
say
listen
there
to those.
might be real information in here, maybe.
She says, shaking her head no.
They don't even know that I'm doing that.
I think they did. I think they
Okay,
needed to
it's
know.
fine.
Anyway, so we're going to go back to our little orchestral little moment that we've got going on in this episode, and I'll be back to close us out in a few minutes.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Maneuvering Music. We hope this easygoing episode was entertaining and a good break for our listeners' tired minds. A special thank you to Lauren Manus and Madison Wells for appearing again on today's episode and lending their big soprano brains to our discussion. The music featured in today's episode has been Preludio Pastorale by Luigi Bottazzo, performed by Eric Jan Erardus. We thank him for graciously allowing the use of his recording in today's episode. Once again, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. My name is Carrie Sullivan, and this has been Maneuvering Music at Miami University.